The Central Bank of Nigeria has issued a warning regarding potential repercussions for financial institutions involved in the illegal sale of dollars or unauthorized FOREX transactions. The warning follows the decline of the Naira against the dollar at the official and unofficial markets. Now, acting CBN Governor Folashodun Shonubi has emphasized the importance of strict steps to restrict illegal remittances and channel them via appropriate means to maximize economic growth. A commission would be inaugurated to pay unscheduled visits to banks accused of unlawfully selling dollars. I have Kasimu Garba Kurfi. He's the CEO, Apt Securities and Fund, joining me now as we look at the CBN's threat. Kasimu, welcome to Business Edge. Thank you so much for joining me.
I'm happy to be with you.
So I know some people would really want to ask, how big of an issue is this particular situation when it comes to illegal Forex maneuvers and trading and transactions here in Nigeria? So let's start with that, an establishment of the issue as it is. So how big of an issue is this illegal Forex transactions with Nigerian banks in particular?
Well, you see, the truth of the matter, there is no way you get dollar into the market without the banks. So even the so-called parallel market, they got their dollars through the banks. And don't forget that our system say importer-exporter windows. So a lot of dollar comes through remittance. Does the remittance has to go through importer-exporter window? The answer is no. So if you restrict your market to importer-exporter, so the remittance have to find their way. And don't forget that the foreign exchange investment into the equity market is another window that we get a lot of dollar. And when you look at the importer-exporter window, did not take care of that. So if others choose to go to the other market, they were not wrong. I believe that the CBN said they will change the name of importer-exporter to Nigerian foreign exchange market. That is a better way. Because first, get your names right. But importer-exporter did not include all other major sources of dollar. So the other source of dollars, they can decide to look at the other way around. And that's what is happening.
Interesting enough, we've seen in the past few days that the CBN has blamed the free fall of the Naira, which almost hit 1,000 before we resumed the week. And they blamed that free fall on speculations and diaspora remittances that don't go through the right channels. And they turn to the parallel markets or to banks and then divert this significant portion of the reserves to the parallel markets. Is this really where the issues lay? Is this really where the blame should be placed in terms of some of the issues we're currently experiencing now as an economy? Is this about diaspora remittances and speculators who are feeling the situation we've seen with the Naira currently?
You see, the truth of the matter, the regulator doesn't want to accept their fault. But first and foremost, before merging the exchange rate into one, there was a gap. What did CBN need to meet up that gaps? Nothing. Mere just changing the exchange rate into single one does not mean meeting up those gaps. There is over $3 billion in waiting for CBN allocation. CBN neither did they allocate it, nor did they provide fund for that. Now you have merged the exchange rate into one. So what it means that everybody should go out and look according to its demand. You remember, even international air flight decided to boycott Nigeria because they cannot get remittance. Now you say go to the market. What do? They will all go out to look for the dollar and remit as they need. And all these that push the gaps because some of the items that sanctioned by CBN allowed them to go and sell their dollar elsewhere. What do? They have to go to look at the remittance, pay the price that they can get that dollar and do their business. And these are the issues. CBN should be a market maker. When there is a gap, try to meet up that gap. Otherwise, you will allow the rent seekers, because a lot of people buy the dollar from the banks and rate it in the market because the gap is now up to 200 Naira. And you trust Nigerians. A lot of Nigerians, they are rent seekers. They don't do anything. They only trade and to make their money, plus the speculators. So all these got their dollars through the bank, and that is why CBN wants to sanction the bank. But before CBN sanction the bank, the CBN should come out with the pre-guideline that allowed every other facet, whether it's in terms of remittance, whether it's in terms of bringing your dollar for the equity participation, should follow that window, not to importer-exporter, because importer-exporter is a restrictive. So we need a wider window, which they say they will change the name. So first change the market, give a wider perspective for the market player before you sanction the banks. Yes, they are free to sanction the bank, but please, they should give them the freedom to fail. First, redesign the market. Secondly, now open up and widen the participant so that if I'm remitting my money, I can go to that market. If I'm remitting my dollar, you say importer, exporter, I say I'm not importer, I'm not exporter. So why should I go to that market? I should collect my dollar or ask my brother to collect their dollar and go to the foreign market. And that's what is happening.
Okay, so in terms of this, I think we also need to connect the dots as well, because someone would say it's my money, whether it's the Naira, it's the dollar that was sent to me, it's the dollar that I've earned in one way or the other. It's my money. Wherever I want to trade that money, what's the CBN's business with that? So I have to ask this in terms of the impact of these illegal Forex transactions and maneuvers that we see happening with Nigerian banks at this point in time. What's the impact that it's having on the economy? What are the long-ranging or even the close-ranging situations that it affects because this money is not entering the system in the legal and rightful way?
Well, the money do come through the system, but the system allowed you to collect your dollar. So as long as the system says that you can collect your dollar, then you have the free for four. You can take it anywhere to sell. And there is people who are even speculators outside with their cash, ready to buy whatever at whatever rate. So if there is this exists, what is need to be done is to apply the principle that we applied during the Abacha time. You remember when Anini was the Minister of Finance, whenever the dollar decided to go up, they will withdraw dollar from CBN, go to the market and sell it and move the Naira. So the price start going up. CBN can move it up. And by the time they move it up, the price will go down. But because CBN is not intervening into that market, that's what makes the market to continue widening. You need to find ways and means that you intervene to curtail this. Now they say they want sanction bank. Yes, that is another way, but this is not totally free because nobody says that if I remit my dollar, I must collect Naira.
Yes.
The only thing that you can sanction the bank and say that you cannot give more than $2,000. So therefore, if I remitted $8,000, I have to continue collecting to $2,000 per day to withdraw my money, or else I have to allow the bank to trade it. But we wait to see what type of sanction they are going to apply to the banks.
And that's where I want to wrap this conversation.
Other people can play the market.
And Kasimu, that's why I want to wrap this conversation. You mentioned earlier, of course, that the CBN should release some kind of guidelines that will involve how the banks can make sure that they're not finding themselves involved in these illegal situations. But when it comes to sanctions, when it comes to repercussions, now the CBN is saying it's going to set up a committee that's going to be going around and be doing inspectors, unannounced inspections of banks, maybe undercover, sending people in to pretend to want dollars to see what practices the banks are involved in. But when it comes to the potential sanctions, as we wrap things up, what do you think the sanctions should look like? The sanctions that the CBN is saying it's going to impose on banks that are involved in illegal Forex sales. What do you think these sanctions should look like to make sure the banks take this situation very seriously?
You see, anytime, any day, CBN sanction banks, and no any bank question their sanction because they are the regulators. But what we want, let them be treated with fairness. Before you sanction me, open up the guideline. CBN said they are going to change that market from importer, exporter, change it first. Let it be Nigerian foreign exchange market. So now it's Nigerian foreign exchange market. Whether I have remittance or otherwise, I can go through that market. That is one. Two, come out with a clear guideline. So if you break those guidelines, you sanction them. But not just start sanction the banks anyhow, which they have the power to do it, and not any bank challenge them, but they should not treat bank without fairness. And they cannot do it alone. They need the intelligence. They need the security intelligence to gather all this information and to work concurrently. It's not the CBN affairs alone.
All right, so we'll end the conversation there because of time. The CBN is saying it's going to sanction banks involved in illegal Forex transactions. It's going to set up a committee that's going to be involved in unannounced and unscheduled inspections. And I know a few people will probably find their hands in the cookie jar and find themselves on the front pages of newspapers and, of course, sanctioned by the CBN. But we'll see how that all plays out. Kasimu, Garba, Kurfi, thank you so much for joining me.
Yes, we wait to see that, but let them be fair to the banks.
And a point that my guest also made is that even as the regulator, the CBN also has some blame to also take on in this situation. So will the CBN find a way to sanction itself for the gaps that are making situations like this possible in the market? It's a question we'll have to pick up another day because this is how we wrap things up on Business Edge. Don't forget to follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. We have a website. It's www.newscentral.africa. And of course, a mobile app you can download so you take us anywhere you are around the continent and around the world. Until next time, I'm Tolulope, Adeleru-Balogun. 12 p.m. West African time. You have News Central Now with all the latest from here in Nigeria, across the African continent, and around the world coming your way. Have a good day.